Everything you see here is all that you need to create a DIY undergravel filter. And here it is installed in the aquarium. But why should someone build their own undergravel filter? The undergravel filter that we're making today should be able to handle sand, gravel, aqua soil, clay, any type of substrate you want to throw at it, it should be able to handle it with no problem whatsoever. But before we get into the video, I just want to give a disclaimer
that I am cheap.
I'm just using materials that I have on hand, that I have laying around that are free to me, and I'm utilizing these to create a system, an undergravel filter that works for me. This might be horribly inefficient, and probably is horribly inefficient, but it's all the materials that I'm utilizing that otherwise wouldn't get used. And this, I hope, serves as a video for you guys to think about what other things you can use around your own house or apartment that can be used to create a system like this rather than having to default to buying one. So let's get into the materials that we're going to be using and how this is actually made. So we're using some clear aquarium silicone. We're using some PVC glue that is rated for potable water, which will be good enough for our aquariums. We have some 1/2 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. We have some zip ties. We have our lighting diffuser. We have our polycarbonate to create our lifts for our egg crate, and then PVC cutters to cut the PVC, as well as our weed tarp that's going to go on top of our lighting diffuser. So the first thing that we have to figure out is how are we going to lift this lighting diffuser off the bottom of the aquarium. And so what I've used are a bunch of small polycarbonate pieces that I have here, and we're going to glue them together with our PVC cement, and we'll stick them at different points around the lighting diffuser to create a very solid structure to be able to hold a lot of weight. And I've already tested it with my dry weight of my rocks, and the spacing that I have works very well for the polycarbonate that I'm using, as well as the lighting diffuser. So let's go ahead and get all of these put together. So now that we've gotten all of this put together, we're going to be talking about the lighting diffuser that I'm using. You can notice here that there are a bunch of zip ties going along the seam right here. And this is because the actual piece of lighting diffuser that I had was too tall this way, but not long enough this way. So I actually cut off a piece up here, and we've plopped it over to here to create our size that we need for our aquarium. So I'm putting this into a 36 by 18 inch footprint. So this measures 34 by 16 along the sides to create that. And these zip ties here are just to secure the two pieces together so that way they don't come apart inside the aquarium. So you can see here all of our different pieces that are now cemented together with that PVC cement, and you can see the outlines of where they're going to go along here based on the scape that I have and the number of pieces that I have. So these longer ones are going to go up here along this side, and these smaller ones are going to go everywhere else. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our aquarium silicone that we have, and we're going to take out the little zip tie that we have that is keeping it closed, and we're going to follow along the path here, along the traced out lines, and we're going to put silicone around all of these. And then as we're going through that, we'll just plop one of these on, and we'll continue on to the next one, and soon enough we'll have all of them put together, and we're almost halfway done to having our DIY undergravel filter completed. And so I've tested this out already in another scrap piece of egg crate, and this silicone sticks very well to the polycarbonate that we have, so we shouldn't have a problem with adhesion for the overall longevity of this project. So as we get over to this far side here, the one thing I want to point out is that the zip ties on this are all facing towards the bottom. So that when I put the fabric or weed barrier, there's going to be no chances for that fabric or weed barrier to get caught on those cuts and to tear it. So that way, it, in theory, should be able to hold all of the substrate above it and not have any leakage down below it. So the other thing that I want to note as we are finishing up here is that these pieces that I'm putting out at the end are a lot longer, about twice as long as the ones on the rest of the egg crate, and that is because I wanted to try to provide support all the way across the small piece that I have here. Rather than having multiple small pieces, I figured I might as well just put 3 large pieces. All right, now that we have everything all glued together, the only thing we have to add is the collar, which the collar is going to go over here when we flip it over to the other side. But I can't do that until all this stuff is glued, so we have to wait for this for about 24 hours. So we'll come back to you guys in 24 hours. So I have my collar that I made for my PVC pipe also glued down. Figured you guys wouldn't necessarily need to see me doing that, but we have all of this ready to go. All right, now that we have the weed fabric all cut, we're going to want to make our final decision on where our different aspects of our tank are going to be. So I'm not being super precise with this, I'm just trying to line up so there's equal amounts on both sides. And what we're gonna first do is we are going to go like this so that we can see how everything scrunches up, in theory, all of that weight will be put onto this part here. And that looks like we have enough space here, as well as here, and on the sides here. So I'm happy with this, and we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna cut out a little X right here. That way the PVC pipe can fit into there, but it's not so large that substrate will also start getting into there. So let's get we're gonna go get a knife, and we're gonna cut that, and we're gonna make a cut this way, and we're gonna make a cut like this to the edge of the plastic. And now, in theory, our PVC pipe should still be able to go through, and we'll have a nice fit around there with how we cut everything out. Now that we have all of this fit together and put together, we can go ahead and actually install it in the tank. So 11 months later, we're actually being able to put it into a tank. A lot has happened. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But right now, we're gonna get all of the gravel installed in there and get it filled up with water. So I have my gravel in buckets down here that is just safety Zorb that I've rinsed and had in previous tanks before coming here. And it's gonna get layered with one layer across the bottom. And I'm gonna have some laterite powder for iron to go in between, just like Kevin Novak's videos talks about, as I'm going to have plants in here at some point. I want to have some iron in there like he's talked about, and then topping off that layer again with some more safety Zorb, which is just a clay media. And I'm planning on having the level just be right above or right below the elbow on that PVC pipe. So I'm going to get that filled up and get everything layered, and we'll come back and see what it's looking like. Oh, additionally, the amount of additional fabric that I had here was way too much. So I ended up curling it underneath here. So you can just sort of see the excess material here. And I had it originally flaring up along the sides, but you could be able to see that, and it's just not very aesthetically pleasing. So I tucked it underneath the entire Undergravel filter around the entire perimeter. So this all should lay flat. You can sort of see it's a little bumpy, it has some ridges in it. But that should work itself out once all the weight of the gravel gets onto it. So as you can see, we're looking pretty good here. We have a couple of areas that hasn't filled in with the substrate yet, but as the water comes in and I start moving some stuff around, it will fill in perfectly fine. You can see on the back that we've come up about maybe 2 inches, and I put my finger in so you could actually see, or I could see how deep in it was. The goal now is to put about half the bag of laterite, about a pound or so of laterite, across the entire area here, and then fill it up with another cap of the safety Zorb on top of it, and then we should be sitting just barely below that elbow. The laterite has been added, so I'm going to top it off with that substrate of the safety Zorb, and we'll start getting it filled up and see how it looks. There is the final product. I added that layer of substrate of safety Zorb on top, and we are ready to go and fill up the tank now. So like I said, this is a 65-gallon tank, but now more or less I took it down to about a 40-gallon size footprint in the amount of actual space there is between the gravel and the top of the rim. So I reckon there's about 4.5–5 inches gravel there. Again, it looks a little deceptive because we have that Undergravel filter plate lifting up the bottom more or less by about 1.5 inches. So that's not all gravel. There's going to be some water space underneath. So we're going to put an air line with an air stone down that pipe right there, and that will sit down at the bottom and be a very, very low bubble. And we'll see how it comes along in the next coming weeks and months. And we'll have to see how the tank comes along in the next coming weeks and months. You can see here a couple of the other tanks that I have set up, and slowly but surely getting them set up and reestablished, and just a lot of stuff going on. Move, child, holidays, all that type of stuff. And so it's been a long time coming, but it's finally set up, and I'm very much looking forward to what's going to get put into here. And that's a question for you guys, is that people that have been around for a little while, you guys know me more for celestial poldanios, the Elastomo gilberti, and some other fish. And now at my current spot, if you would call it that, is the water temperature here is sitting at about, I don't know, well, you can see that 60 degrees. And that one over there is sitting at 58 degrees. So I need some suggestions of some cold water fish. And I have a good idea of some of the ones that I want to get, but we're talking maybe down to 50s in here. So some of these tanks are going to be heated. Like my African tank here is heated. You can see the heater in the back corner over here. So I'm still going to have some heaters, but running heaters in this entire space down here is just going to be way too much. So I need to figure out a way and figure out fish that I can keep and enjoy that are cold water fish. So if you guys have any questions about this Undergravel filter setup, I know that's what the entire video is about, but I figured I'd give a little update there. If you guys have any questions about the Undergravel filter or anything that I used or the longevity of it or why I did certain things, I think that this is going to keep out a lot of those fines from getting into the Undergravel filter, and I think this will work really great for sand. That's one of the most common questions I've gotten on all my Undergravel filter videos is, can I have an Undergravel filter that works with sand? And I think this here, with how fine that mesh is, sand's not going to get through there, and you're going to be golden to be able to use sand in an aquarium and have an Undergravel filter. So let me know what you guys think, and if you guys go off and do it, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a blessed day. See ya.